Alrighty, so we have this match here. We have Diablo, fantastic hero, especially on Dragon Shire. I would argue it's probably his best map. Um, so
Mhm.
let's take a look. The drafts for the rest of the team. You have Diablo, Chromie, Malfurion, Tychus, Artanis. Okay, nice traditional draft. Sonya, Raynor, Rhaegar, Hanzo, and Muradin. Okay, so your solo lane matchup is going to be Artanis into Sonya. Your three man is going to be Diablo, Malfurion, Chromie. Tychus is going to be soaking mid lane most likely and kind of rotating in between the two. Their
Okay.
their their team is going to be Muradin, Hanzo, and Rhaegar as their, or I guess they might do Hanzo as the mid laner. It's can interchange between Raynor and Hanzo, but they do have
hmm
two very strong auto attack heroes in
Yeah.
Raynor and Hanzo. So this is definitely a threat to you on the Diablo. One of the things that you're
hmm
looking for drafting wise when you're picking Diablo, he
hmm
can be taken very early on in the draft. It's not a problem. But
Okay.
as far as how aggressively you can play, that depends on what type of damage that the enemy team has. Okay, so high auto attack damage is very threatening to Diablo. He's got a super large health pool, but it can
hmm
be burned through with enough auto attacks. And so he gets destroyed by crowd control, especially slows and auto
Yeah.
attacks. And of course, repositioning as well. That's why Garrosh is sort of his sort of counter. So you pair Garrosh with some sort of an auto attacker like a Zul'jin, Raynor, Hanzo, whatever.
hmm
All right, so let's take a look. This match, I think that just by nature of having the Diablo on this map, you don't have a Garrosh to play into. So I do think
hmm
that the bottom lane should be relatively easy to control.
hmm
Hopefully, I think you can get ahead on rotations as well. Let's see, wave clear wise. Their wave clear, especially early game, is a little weak with before Hanzo gets his level 4 talent.
Okay.
They do have Rhaegar, which is decent for the wave clear as well, and they should be able to take their camps pretty quickly. Your team is a little
hmm
weaker for camp taking overall, and I don't
hmm
think that with this draft you can really invade super hard because they have a lot of room to
Yeah.
chase with the Diablo Chromie. Your solo lane, Artanis into Sonya, that matchup is. I think Sonya is favored in the matchup, so it
hmm
might be a tough matchup to win the top side. But because you have your stronger bot lane with Diablo, I think that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Essentially, you could have Tychus rotate to the top lane after clearing
hmm
mid, and like making sure that it swings in the favor of the Artanis. That's sort
hmm
of how I see this match going. What would you say?
Okay.
Early, mid, late game. What do you think is the power spike that your team is looking for? What do you think is the
Chromie when she gets level 8,
hmm,
that's when I feel that we have that little window to start to maybe get a couple of kills
okay?
and get some camps and so we can get to 10 so we all have our heroics. So I feel that I try to keep that in mind. Like as soon as Chromie hits 8, like
Sure.
I know, like okay, she has her ult, like a good temporal loop
Do you
or
know
say
which
or
ult he goes for this game?
I don't remember. I should have looked over them
So they
briefly. I
do
don't
have a Rhaegar, and most of the time, if you're going up against Rhaegar, it's going to be cleanse. And whenever you're going against any healer that has a hard cleanse at level 7, I think
remember.
time loop is probably not worth it. It's still really strong ultimate. I mean, and you can use it on Rhaegar himself, which is just fine. Can't cleanse
hmm
yourself.
Okay.
But I do think that in this game, I probably want to see the Slowing Sands. The Slowing Sands would be really nice for, once again, controlling this bottom shrine.
hmm
If they ever try and push in the bottom lane, it can be very useful for clearing out mercenary pushes and things of that nature. Um, and it's also going to be nice for Tychus as well to be able to burn something that's trying to walk through it if there's ever a
hmm
situation like that. Um, okay. And as far as your ultimate, do you know what you picked this game?
I'm pretty sure I won Apocalypse. I've
Okay,
been playing with Apocalypse more than Lightning Breath.
gotcha. I think that in the current meta, You should try to aim for Lightning Breath as a more standard pick, and APOC as a more if there's a reason for it. So in this draft, for example, you don't really have Wombo per se. The benefit of having the Apocalypse is this bottom lane, right? Because of the fact that you can get guaranteed shadow charges in this whole area, anywhere in this whole area, it's a guaranteed stun. So because of that, you can always do the APOC setup just on your own. You don't need to have a Void Prison. You don't have to have anything. No CC required. You have your own CC. Easy. You press R, Q, E, and they're stunned into the APOC. So that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I do think that Lightning Breath could have been quite nice here. They have several heroes that do get quite influenced by slows, which is what the Lightning Breath is all about, is applying this very powerful slow plus damage and unstoppable. So that would be really good, for example, against the Sonya, the Raynor, the Rhaegar, and it would at the very least force jumps out of Hanzo or Muradin. And sometimes Hanzo you might have, for example, already interrupted his jump, or he might be out of position, not near a wall, so he can very quickly go down as well. And then I'm assuming for build, you're going for the Devastating Charge build?
Yeah, with Malevolence.
With Malevolence. Cool. Yeah. Okay, so you're going for very much so... you can do a lot of damage with this build. So the good news about it is that you can be the tank, the damage, and the DPS as well. You can almost kill people all on your own. It requires very little follow-up from your DPS, especially after you are able to complete the 13 quest with the Domination talent for the reset. All right, well, let's get into this replay. So one thing to keep in mind on Dragon Shire in general is that it's very important to control this triangle. And the first team that wave clears the mid lane is sort of the team that has that advantage because they have the first right of rotation to the bot lane. Right. And in addition to that, controlling this triangle, it also gives you vision so that you can take your camp safely and potentially look for invades. Once again, I don't think this is a comp where you want to go for invades, but okay. You also have the Artana, so you could look for a swap here, look for a play here. All right, so there, very nice, good wall stun there. I think that this is the correct thing to do to flip him. It does look like your team's not quite looking for that. We also have the Entangling Roots that could have been a follow-up here, and that would have secured this kill for sure. It's what's really important when you're playing Diablo is being consistent and when possible communicating what your plan is. So Shadow Charge, Overpower is the traditional combo as long as you can land it on a wall, and your team should know that you're going to flip them afterwards. So sometimes you need to just let people know I'm always going to flip them if I get a wall bang, and that'll let them know I'm going to put my next ability behind him instead of where he is currently.
Okay, for sure.
All right, so Artanis heads directly to lane. That's fine. They still have a fair number of people in the mid lane. So I'd like to see you still be in this triangle here instead of up here, right? Okay. Just because you can once again threaten to charge someone on this wall and prevent them from rotating to this bottom lane. You already have Tychus here, so you don't want to be too aggressive, but if you can slow their rotation, like Muradin couldn't stay here and push your Chromie away if you're the one that's standing in here. Also good to remember that you can always flip people and charge them into your tower range if they step up anywhere around this area.
Okay.
So they do get the first wave clear, which is, it's fine. It's still the early game, but I think your team could have had it first. You had control and sort of gave it up a little bit. Nonetheless, it looks like they missed some experience in the bot lane, which is really, really good. Artanis comes back to mid to... Oh, really nice swap. And that should be a wall charge. Let's take a look. Yeah. Oh,
what am I doing?
Yeah, so you just don't see it. I mean, I don't know if he called that he was doing the swap, but this should land a kill every time. He has no escape route because his jump, as you can see, he can only jump upwards, and he can only jump to the side if he gets to here. And it's so far away that if you're looking for the wall stun, this guy's dead, guaranteed. I guess if he jumps up, he could get out. That's possible. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, he does go that way. Yeah. So it's unfortunate. You just didn't see that was the play that your teammate was making, but all right. Meanwhile, Tychus is doing good work in the bot lane. You do have a camp that's available. You do want to get this camp out early on because the objective hasn't spawned yet, and getting camps out on Dragon Shire is what allows you to capture the shrine pretty convincingly. If you have a camp pushing this lane and they don't, it's something that they have to deal with. So it means that you can safely stand here, and if they try and contest you, then they're just going to have siege giants wailing away either on the heroes or on the towers. So just good to remember to get this camp out right away. And if there's a possibility to do this during a lull at some point, or if you have, let's say, a hero kill, capturing this bruiser camp can basically allow your solo laner to capture the top lane as well, because that's the same reason. Sonya has to be here to clear, otherwise the bruisers are going to start taking down towers. You showed here. So I think that playing with vision is really important, right? Hanzo's walking into this bush. I'd love to see you have stayed in this bush and just maybe like try and get into this bush for the wall angle. But if you show here, there's no chance that he's going to step downwards. He's going to back up. Yeah. It's unlikely you would have gotten it because this totem is really well placed. It's... Oh, okay. It's close. But once again, if you're standing anywhere in this radius, it means nobody can walk through here. Because you have this wall. That's the idea. You have to always be thinking, where do I want to prevent my opponents from being able to walk?
Yeah, this Raegar has really good totems.
Yeah. Absolutely. As I said, slows are very impactful against Diablo because he has no escape except for if there's something behind him that he can shadow charge. So a slow is just a slow. There's nothing he can do about it. You know, an ETC can power slide, a Muradin can jump, and a Nubrak can burrow charge. Diablo can waddle away. That's about it.
He's communicating
right here. Beautiful. Okay, so yeah, staying in hidden in this spot right here is really good. And you do get the wall stun. You don't have a DPS with you. Flip. Yep, good. Perfect. Beautiful. Oh, nice. So close. No, go. You just need... so ideally, like, even Malfurion can get this kill right now. You just need... You got to be pinging this. You have to be pinging this so your team knows. Yeah, yeah. So he gets away just because of a lack of communication. I don't know if you guys are in voice comms, but even if you're not, just give it a ping, and hopefully one of these two heroes will see it and be able to just land that one last hit on him. It was a good idea, though. It was good positioning. And now, yeah, so now the objective is up. This shrine is definitely worth contesting. You don't want to be the one who's standing on it, though, okay? Because of the fact that you can stun anything that's in here, you want to be anywhere up above it. Anything on your team can walk in and sit on the point or just get vision, and that'll allow you to do it. You can get your own vision by using a fire stomp in this cone, essentially, right here. If you stand right here, you just use fire breath this direction. Then it gives you full vision, and you can land a stun on your own. But right now, I'd like to see you standing sort of right here, so that this is the wall stun that you're looking for against this wall. So anything that walks into this bush, that's your go-to. And that allows your team to be very aggressive, right? Because if your teammates can stand all here and never be contested by something like Muradin, if Muradin tries to walk up, you just immediately wall stun. He gets minigun down for the next 3 seconds, and he's probably dead.
Okay.
I don't want to see you rotate, though. This lane, yes, it's important to catch the soak, but you're not the one to do it. because your wave clear is terrible. If you're spending a long time on Diablo whacking minions, playing whack-a-mole, and trying to do fire stamp damage or fire stomp damage, it's not going to be a good game because you're showing on the mini map, so there's no threat to the enemy team. By being hidden, playing with the vision, and being in this bottom lane, you're providing a lot of threat. They can't possibly get this shrine. So yeah. This is, so you go in on this guy. There's no chance of you actually getting a kill without a wall stun and potentially flipping him into towers. So I guess you're just trying to threaten him, but he outtrades you as a Rainer, right? And so yeah, this doesn't really accomplish much. I guess you have to just kind of catch the soak, and that's about it. Okay. So yeah, it should be Tychus doing this instead of you. Tychus can decently trade with the Rainer, and you can absolutely provide more threat on this bottom lane. Camp is still not taken. It's kind of a problem. But the objective is available, and you got it. All right, cool. So it shouldn't be you, obviously, the same situation. It should be the Tychus instead. But once again, if you have an opportunity to take the dragon, don't worry about who's getting in unless you have that luxury.
Okay.
So real quick, let's take a look at your. So first off, really great positioning so far. The punt away of the Hanzo is actually not a great idea. It worked out fine, but he has natural agility, and any hero with mobility, if they're standing near their towers, you don't want to punt them, because what can happen is if they're smart, they'll use their mobility to get over the wall, and you'll have to charge against the towers and stand against the towers for like a couple seconds trying to punt them, but you can't, and you can't cancel it. So you're going to end up taking free damage from the towers for a few seconds if that happens. Just a little note to have in mind. If there's no way that they can get away from it, by all means do it. Especially against something like a Rainer or a Zul'jin, where they're going to be wailing away, or a Tychus. If those things are trying to hit the Dragon Knight, by all means knock them away. They don't have ways to get out of it, really. Otherwise, your positioning is really good. You're not taking both of the turrets. This is very important. Something I see a lot of people not doing is minimizing the amount of damage that they're taking on the Dragon Knight. It doesn't matter if the health bar goes to 0, if the time also goes to 0, that's fine. That means you perfectly utilize the Dragon Knight. But you definitely don't want the health bar to be below to die before the time runs out. You want to capture the full duration of time. You also don't want to have a full health bar at the end of it either. So. So this, instead of punting away the Hanzo, for example, this could have been a really cool punt on the Rainer that's trying to flank. That would have knocked him potentially up for Artanis to potentially finish off, because a punt does like about 20%, 20 to 30% damage. One other little thing, try and keep on stutter stepping when you're hitting with the Dragon Knight. Standstill targets are a lot easier to hit, especially for skill shots like Hanzo has, and you just gave a Murden stack as well. And once again, if they're defending in whichever lane that you're in, you can always play more passive and play around the Flame Breath. The Flame Breath does a fair amount of damage, and you can use it very easily on cooldown and just back up, not tank towers or tank tons of damage. I don't like to see you walking towards top lane. So with Dragon Shire, the very first objective, it's a very short time, right? It only lasts for 43 seconds. Okay, that seems a lot longer than I remember, but it always seems like the shortest one. I think the later objectives do last longer. With that first objective, it's fine to take the first wall just for the sheer amount of travel time. But after if you can take the towers safely, then the next thing you should absolutely do is try and get to the bottom lane and try and take these towers as well. I'm perfectly okay with leaving mid and just coming bot as well, depending on if you have somebody else here to soak. That's the main reason why people stay in the mid lane, is to catch the soak, get the towers, and then rotate. You definitely don't want to push with the first Dragon Knight and try and get like the mid. It's not going to happen unless it's quite later into the game. Going top is just an outright mistake. The top lane is very unimportant on Dragon Shire, besides obviously holding the objective, because of the fact that these bridges exist. These two bridges are what are known as the Bridge of Death, right? You don't want to take a team fight here if you're the aggressive team, right? Because it's so easy for skill shots to land in this whole area that if you get caught in, it's like asking to be wombo comboed. So because of that, you never really want to push the top lane with your heroes. So therefore, what's the point in pushing with the Dragon Knight for it either? It does give you the passive experience. So if there's after you've taken this fort and this fort, I think it's okay to take the top fort, but I'd much rather see you take the bottom wall. The bottom lane is by far the most important lane on Dragon Shire because of the amount of space that exists here, as well as the number of mercenary camps that are on the bottom side of the map. This camp, and this camp all go to the same lane, right? No mercenaries go to the mid lane, and only the bruiser camp goes to the top lane. So that's why the bottom lane is so important. You can create massive pushes that are just as strong as a Dragon Knight practically by combining a siege camp, a bruiser camp, and potentially the second siege camp. If you can do that 3-camp push, it can secure guaranteed a fort plus a wall, or a wall plus a keep. It's incredibly powerful to do that.
Okay.
What I was saying also down here, as far as the amount of room, is if you, let's say, push the mid and you take the mid keep, the amount of like, think of this this keep as this is the damage radius of this keep, right? So you can't walk anywhere in there, otherwise you're going to be tanking damage from the keep as well as the core. So if this building is dead, this is the amount of space that you actually have that you can stand in right here. Do you see what I'm saying? Because you have this threat down here, and you also have this threat up here, and that's really restricting the area that you can safely stand, especially if you have a core that's doing splash damage, because you don't want to clump up. So that's why it's not great to be in the middle lane so much, or the top lane trying to end. It's much better and much easier to end the game on the bottom side, because you have all this space that you can use to try and end the game or get more picks. All right?
Okay.
All right, so you do go to the top lane, just get a flame breath off. So I don't think you're going to be able to do all that much more. They do have 3 bodies up here, 4 bodies. Okay, so this is not terrible for you in the sense that your team can be getting further ahead because they overcommit essentially to this lane. So they have 4 bodies up here, so you should be catching extra soak that they're not getting, which it looks like is happening. I would like... Okay, Hanzo is down here, but he's pretty low. I think Tychus probably could maybe get 1 tower down here if he's able to force this guy to back maybe. And I think Chromie doesn't siege too well, but she actually can hit the buildings with her sandblast now, so maybe she can also get this tower. So basically your job up here is to keep them up here. Since they've overcommitted, you want to keep them up here for as long as you can. So you're doing exactly what you want to be doing. That's fantastic. Playing it slow. You get a nice punt. Just being annoying. So you don't get any damage on this wall really. So once again, I don't think it was the right thing to bring it up here, but they make the mistake of overcommitting because of that. So it's fine. Okay, so I think at this point I'd like to have seen you rotate on this guy, maybe try and get a pick. But okay. So you go for the Sonya. Yeah, unfortunate. I guess he walked up here, you flipped him. I missed the beginning of it, but I think you flipped him, and then after he started walking away, then you charged. I want to see if there was an opportunity for a wall bang there.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's going to face... Okay, and yeah. So there was an immediate chance for it while he's right here. Because he moves to here, then it's... You have to reposition. You have to step to here to do it the same thing. This is the wall that you're using to cue him on. Okay. So you're flipping him from here to here, and then you're charging him. That's the idea. And then if you can do that, Malfurion should be able to follow up with a root because he's going to be stunned in his range. And if that connects, then Chromie's damage should connect, and I think you actually probably could get that kill. Yeah. So it does seem as though right now your Malfurion is sort of looking for roots that are more like zoning roots or like things that are in a good direction, but they're not so much CC roots to follow up on your crowd control. But you also have to land your crowd control to make sure that that's possible. Okay, so yeah, you missed a little bit of the mid soak because of that play, but you're still ahead a little bit. Once again, these camps have yet to be taken, so that's important, especially now. The objective is dormant again. That's the time where the camps have to be taken. Think of it this way. There's only so many minions that come to each lane, right? They're time gated. So as long as you have one person in each lane and catching that soak, there's really nothing else to do besides take mercenary camps during this time because there's no objective. Right. So the team that does their camps is just going to be in an advantageous position over the team that doesn't do their camps but has 2 people in this lane and 2 people in this lane and 1 person in the top lane, right? All right, so somebody's pinging this. I think Chromie. Okay, yeah, that's good. I want to take a quick peek. Okay, so you do have Souls to the Flame. I do think you should have higher soul count at this point. Why don't you have higher soul point? So one thing to keep in mind, you do want to make sure you're landing your fire stomp on as many heroes as you can. It's a very inexpensive spell that, more importantly, you have Devil's Due, so it doesn't matter how much mana it costs because you never run into them. And it's just really good for keeping yourself topped, but with this level 4 talent, it also provides souls. So you want to be hitting, ideally, 2 to 3 heroes whenever possible. It's got a very long range. Trying to show the... Why does it show the radius? Oh, well. The range of it is quite long. It goes all the way out to here, right? From where you're standing. So there's no reason not to be hitting it on a bunch of heroes all the time. And then as far as the number of souls from hitting minions or killing minions, that also is important. You want to make sure you're catching that in the early game. Nonetheless, 70 is not too bad. So this was a little risky because it's 2 versus 1 right now. I think you're looking to do a flip charge either into the wall or into the towers, but the minions are going to be here, so the towers aren't going to help you, and you're just going to get kind of chunked out. All right, so it's a good charge there to just avoid further damage. That's fine. Good. You guys are taking the camp. Artanis comes from top. They did their bruiser camp, so they're going to have quite a bit of an advantage on the top side of the map, but it doesn't. I doubt that they're doing this. They could have done the siege as well, but they have 2 people here. They did this camp. Maybe Sonya goes and does the siege at this point instead of trying to push top. That's possible.
Okay.
But no, Sonya's top. So this has to be responded to, and if it's only Artanis, then this wall is probably dead, just straight up, because it's a Sonya and it's a bruiser camp. So ideally you want to have something else that can either fast wave clear or zone out the Sonya. In this case, it's probably going to be the Tychus. Sonya can't just sit here and hit the towers if there's a Tychus here, right? So I'd like to see Artanis and Tychus respond to the top lane while the 3-man pushes in the bot lane at the same time, essentially. You don't have to hard push or anything because, once again, you have 2 people in the top lane, so they could try and force on you 4v3. So you just want to play it relatively passively. Just make sure that they don't get the free clear if possible. So, yeah. Okay, so you do end up going for the time loop here. That's unfortunate. So, yeah, so they do have the cleanse, and the cleanse is exactly what's needed here. Also, the Malfurion route could have been on top of the actual time loop, if that's what you're going to do. It just guarantees that they stay in that spot for a while, which is nice. But the cleanse comes out. So, yeah, I don't think the time loop was the right call here. But, or if you're going to use it, you got to use it on the Raevar. Have to. All right, so you head to the top lane, which is really bad because you have no wave clear. Your wave clear is very, very bad. And your threat to Sonya is very minimal unless you have Tychus with you. So there's really no purpose to you being there besides somebody to catch soak, but it needs to be Artanis and or Tychus. So yeah, let's take a look what happens. All right, so Artanis comes to. Sonya gets spooked because there's 2 heroes, but they are still going to get the wall pretty much. And the rest of your team, you're taking the bruiser. Tychus gets a little chunked in the bot lane, but he's got some push done. Okay. All right. This does take a little while to do, but it's okay. You're missing a bit of mid soak, but you guys are still ahead on XP. All right. So the objective is coming back up. That means your time is to be in the bot lane, right? So you are going to get level 10 first, and you have this bruiser camp pushing top lane, so you have an advantage on the top side of the map. You should be able to cap this with Artanis. That means you need to be 4-manning the bottom lane. They have the siege camp that's pushing now. You already did yours, and it's done, so they have an advantage in the bot lane right now, which means that they're going to want to press up, right? And that's an opportunity for your team to either take a fight or just to try and clear. Those are your two options. If you win a fight, then that secures the next objective, or you can play it passive and wait for level 10, which is also a very good idea, and that'll also secure, I think, the Dragon Knight as long as you can get a kill off of it. But you have to rotate.
Yeah.
Okay. So Artanis is going to cap that top side, and yeah, they have a lot of people showing bot. You have level 10, so I would love to see, for example, if it were me, I would go for the lightning breath in this game, and then you don't even need to land a wall stun. You just need to, if it's a Raevar, for example, you just charge, flip, and then start casting the lightning breath. Because when at the end of your combo, they're in your melee range, right? So the moment you start casting lightning breath, it's got a really long length. The length of it's is like this. And that means that they're going to be slowed trying to run away for that whole duration. Now, he does have his mount form or whatever, so he's faster than most heroes. But I think that if you go for the charge flip right here and then try and laser him down from whichever direction he goes, I think that your team should be able to follow up and kill him.
Okay.
And you could do that on either this hero or this hero. You don't want to do that on this hero because he's got to jump.
Yeah.
So now that he's walked into the shadows, you can either go for this guy, or you can walk up or to the left here, drop a W, and then go for the charge.
Okay.
So you end up going for this guy. That's totally fine. The rest of your team is a lot closer to this guy. Malfurion's a little late to come. That's just unfortunate, but the stun prevents you from flipping. There is a cleanse though. That's fine. Now your team just needs to. Oh god, this guy's wild. He's like, hey, did you forget about me? And that's when you're like, no, I did not forget about you. Now you're dead. Cool. All right. Nice. Really good. Awesome. Good APOC. Basically, you were just doing it to follow up on the route, which is fine. Now it secures the second kill. So now it's really important that you guys get something out of this. There's two options. You can either take this camp or this one or both. That's basically what it comes down to. I think they have two people in the top lane right now, so it's quite likely that if you go for Dragon Knight, Artanis might die because he's trying to sit on this point and trying to hold it against two people.
Okay.
So the safe play is Artanis just tries to live and walk away, and the rest of your team grabs the bottom camp and pushes this lane. That's the safe play.
Okay. I see.
It's going for the Dragon Knight is just fine too if you can get it. It's just a little risky with them having a 2 versus 1 up top and nobody even remotely close to try and capitalize on it. The worst case scenario is that your team kind of dilly-dallies, doesn't take the point, doesn't do this, doesn't immediately go for Dragon Knight, and Artanis dies in the top lane, and then this double kill means nothing. Let's take a look what happens. So you definitely don't want to have two people rotating to mid or top in this situation. So
okay.
Yeah, so they grab this away, and he should live because of the fact that they went for the objective. I think he's alive. It's close. Nice, good charge. Flip back in. Try and body block. So it's really important when you're playing Diablo and you're using especially overpower. It's important that you're body blocking afterwards because overpower, generally speaking, you're using it when they're about to get away, and then you're like, nope, you're not getting away. And in those situations, just stepping right here and preventing him from walking away, keep getting him hit by the fort. He's dead, right? He's dead. But I'm just saying, it's always good to do that. And now this should be guaranteed bottom lane. It looks like it's just fine as well. Laser is doing work. Rainer's like, oh, this tickles. Okay, so I don't want to see you being the one that caps it personally, just because once again, you're the reason why they can't step out so far on the minimap. So if you're the one that caps this, it's just time that they could step out. So for example, this Rhaegar.
Okay.
I mean, you are APOC, but once again, if you were Lightning Breath, if this guy's ever this far out in lane, you can threaten to kill him practically yourself, just by the sheer amount of distance that he has to run to get to safety.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So there's like no threat of me because I'm just showing on the map all the time.
Sort of, yeah. Playing with vision as a tank is extremely important. Just being in the position that prevents your team, the other team, from making plays, right?
Okay.
Every time you show on a mini map, you're giving the enemy team information, and that information can be used to make a decision. So, sitting in bushes a lot is really good as a tank. You obviously want to be in the right bushes, and you don't want to face check those bushes unless you're like Johanna or something. But but yeah.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, you are alone in this situation. So it's unlikely that you do get this kill, especially without Lightning Breath. And you're gonna miss this soak here. There's no chance of you capping this Dragon Knight right now. Right. See, I'd much rather have you be the one that's in the bot lane, for example, because they can't ever take this away from you. It would take them so long to kill you. You could just sit on this point for so long and guarantee that your team actually caps this. Plus, it's a really great place for you to fight because of the wall stuns. So I'd like to see you be the one that's in the bot lane, and then Tychus obviously is the one that's in this lane. Tychus can outtrade Rhaegar all day, and Rhaegar can't continue to try and stop the Dragon Knight channel. Eventually he'll die. So that's how I see this playing out ideally.
Okay.
You're probably going to have a little scrap with this guy, and let's see what happens. You just have a slap fest. All right. Tychus does come. And that means Tychus is definitely threatening enough that this guy should die. Oh, no, he's hitting the totem. That's unfortunate. He needs to be mini-gunning this guy the whole time. He's getting traded into by Raynor. Yeah, that's no good. That's definitely no good. All right, so because of the fact that you're not in this bottom lane, they're able to take it back because Muradin can just walk onto it. Chromie can't stay on it, right? So that's important. You do have two people in the top lane, which I don't like either. Once you've capped this, it's really hard for Sonya to take it back from Artanis. Like she can take it back eventually, but in Sonya's real advantage in the solo lane is that she can heal up off the minion wave really well, and on the point there's no minions, so Artanis actually trades quite favorably into Sonya on points, just not in the minion wave. Just a note. So Malfurion doesn't need to be here, I don't think, is what I'm trying to get at. If Malfurion was either in this lane helping you guys here, you might get a kill, or if Malfurion and you were down here. Ideal positioning is the tank, you're in the bottom lane holding this point, and Tychus, the person who was going to take this, is in this lane, and Malfurion is helping him. And this is being held by one person. And Chromie can either be in the bot lane helping you, or can also be 3-manning in the mid. That's how I see it. All right. These taps. So it's really important when you're playing Diablo to manage your taps, because Devil's Due allows you to have outrageous control over your health bar and mana. A tap at any percent, like if you have 100 souls, if you could be 1% HP, you're going to get topped and then some. So it's really important to use those taps wisely, because if you're just using it to get more health, it's probably not worth it, because you get 2 globes and you get like 70% of your health bar anyway. Using a tap right before a fight is amazing. It's like so good, because the enemy team sees your health bar and they're like, oh, this guy's out of position and he's got like 60% health, but it's coming back constantly so fast that they're just not going to kill you. It's not possible. So I'd like to see you, if you're going to tap here, try and immediately fight, but it's not really possible right now. That's why I don't really like this tap. All right, so you just go for the rotation. Grab that bot lane back. Oh, wow, look at that.
Oh, nice.
Chromie gets the duel. Destroys. Appropriate pings.
Yeah.
All right, so this is one of those situations where I was talking about before. I don't want to see you be the one that's sitting on the point because it's harder to land the wall bangs. If somebody walks in here and you charge them, they don't get wall banged. Maybe you can flip them in or something, but it's unlikely. So if you're standing here or here, it's much more likely that you can land that wall stun, and then Chromie can follow up with the damage.
Okay.
Yeah, so right now I'd like to see you run upwards. Okay, he walks forward, so that's fine. So you land that with the flip. Good. And now body block. You have to step up right here.
Okay.
It looks like he's already body blocked. Cool. And that secures that kill. Chromie is an AI.
Yeah. They had to nerf her.
Yep.
She's too good.
Too good. Winning a 1v1 against a Muradin with full health.
Yeah.
Insane.
Was trying to force 50.
So yeah, also not ideal to have your healer be the one grabbing the objective. And he can't hold it against the Hanzo. There's no chance of him actually doing this. Now that you're here, there is a chance. Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay. You do want to get the wall bang, but he's low enough health that it doesn't matter because of Malevolence, this talent. So that's fine. If he was higher health, you definitely want to hold it a little bit.
Okay.
Because either he walks to here and you get this wall stun, or he steps backwards and you get this wall stun. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now it should be a guaranteed pit. Now, yeah, that's fine. Good positioning for Malfurion to tank the minions. Cool. You want to make sure, so definitely you want to use the first one, but I'd like to have seen it in this area while you're a little higher, just so you get all the minions.
Okay.
You finish off this tower, and then I hope you go bot lane. Okay, you stay mid lane. All right, so this objective is later. It's the mid game one. So this one you absolutely can get the mid fort, but okay, never mind. Bot's being taken on its own. That's fine. So you can think of the objective in two different ways. You can either think of it as a pushing tool, or you can think of it as a distraction. Okay. If you're using it as a pushing tool, you are pushing as hard as you can, or trying to avoid damage and keep pushing, and that's how you push. But if they're responding to you with a lot of members, and you don't have a lot of members in your lane, then as long as your other teammates are pushing, it's effectively the same thing. There's no real difference. You don't have to be pushing if they're staying in that lane, because your teammates are pushing. You could be down here hitting, and it would be the same thing as if you were standing up here and drawing 4 people to you. So this is fine. See, yeah, I'm okay with walking away. Right now there's only 2 people showing, so you don't have to run away. And more importantly, I don't want to see you go to the top lane. I guess you're looking to try and pick this guy off, but using a Dragon Knight to get a pick in the top lane is just really not worth it. The Dragon Knight is all about confirming structures. So your team does secure the bottom, but I would have loved to see you, instead of walking upwards, I'd love to see you rotate downwards and help your team to keep pushing. I think you get the wall in this situation. Pretty much guaranteed you can get the wall or the fort. That's sort of the 2 plays that are possible. I think there's a world that if you take the wall, you can also take the fort, just because of the rotation. It's possible. Otherwise, you could also steal their siege camp. That's sort of how I see this.
Okay.
So you go top lane instead. You do a punt, but it's not even going to lead to a kill. So yeah, this is a waste of the Dragon Knight, because you're going to get maybe a tower or 2 up here, but you're not going to get a fort. Also, your team doesn't have a tank down here, so Chromie goes down. Punt away on Raevar, but there's nothing that can follow it up. All right, so we got the tower, 2 towers. So this is the second Dragon Knight, and neither of the Dragon Knights have actually gotten a fort, right? Both of the Dragon Knights were used to get tower/wall, and the only fort that died was due to your teammates pushing. So that's a problem. I would say that if you've gotten 2 Dragon Knights, but at this point in the game, you need to have not just the fort down, but the wall or the mid fort as well. That's sort of how I see it. It's a good wall stun. So you definitely don't want to do the flame upwards in this situation. I think you're trying to do it for damage on Sonya. Lightning Breath or Flame Stomp is not a damage ability.
Okay.
It does very minimal damage, and like it adds up, but the real reason you're using it is for sustain. And if you have multiple enemies on this side and only one enemy on this side, it's much better to land the flame on this side. More importantly, that's the direction that Sonya wants to go anyway, so you're going to end up hitting her with it more likely than not. So this flame is going to do nothing, whereas if you did it on this side, it hits 3 people.
Okay.
And you always want to be using APOC before your charge so that it's its own setup, right?
Okay.
If you're using after your crowd control's over, then all you're doing is saying, hey, enemy team, you better move. But that's it. So it doesn't actually connect with anything, but it does isolate the Muradin because he walks to the right and the rest of his team walks to the left. I don't know that you can kill this guy, though. You have a Malfurion, Artanis, and Diablo. You need Tychus to be able to kill him. More importantly, you don't really want to take a fight. Chromie's dead. So, all right. So then you just back off. That's fine. You do have a experience advantage having gotten both of those Dragon Knights, so that's still good. 16 is your big talent. That's when you're really making plays. All right, perfect. Really good swap, and it's on a Rhaegar. That's fantastic. You definitely want to try and get a wall bang. Unfortunate. I think you could have been a little bit more patient and waited for a wall bang, but I understand. I thought that was close too. It was. Sometimes you just get unlucky.
Yeah.
All right. You do get the kill before the Ancestral goes off, which is really important. And that's going to secure this point as well, I think. So your cooldowns are down right now. So there's very low threat that you're presenting. So the best thing you could be doing right now is sitting on the point.
Okay.
You're the tank, right? So it takes them a really long time to try to kill you. If you're sitting on this point, there's no way that they're getting it. Once your cooldowns are coming back, that's when, or let's say you had cooldowns right now, then I would like this, because then you're threatening all 3 of these heroes if they try and stay. But in this situation, Artanis is a more threatening hero than you are, since your cooldowns are down. So I'd like to see you sit on the point, and then the rest of your team can force them away.
Okay.
All right. So this top push could potentially get the top fort just because of the bruiser, and it does look like you guys are up here to do that. All right, so you went for a charge down here. It doesn't look like it's possible. You don't really want to be fighting right now because you're about to hit level 16. You do have Rhaegar dead, so I guess it's okay. That's fine. But the primary objective in the situation here is not to like hard force. It's just to kill the fort safely and only take a team fight if somebody oversteps drastically. You also don't have most of your ultimates. Chromie's your only ultimate that's really impactful right here as far as getting kills. This one is purely defensive, really.
Okay.
So yeah, I'd like to see much more focus on the fort, because the fort's pretty high health, right? Eventually, the bruiser camp's going to die. When the bruiser camp dies, suddenly you're really out of position, right? If the fort's not dead. So that's why it's really important to be focusing the fort and positioning rather defensively in this situation. I don't think there's no chance you take a fight on this bridge. This is really bad. Like,
okay,
I think, I mean, obviously it's not you doing it. I'm just saying that for your team, taking this fight is very scary. Okay.
Yeah, we're trying to get the fort down.
Yeah. So that's the right thing to do. It's just a little too late now. The bruiser's about to go down, so you guys got to get the hell out of dodge.
Yeah.
All right. It does look like you have a successful disengage. Great. Perfect. So you go out of vision and you mount up. Perfect response. So now the best thing to do is wait until your team has backed up to like here, and then you go for a re-engage if they chase, because you got a nice wall bang angle. Or if the swap connects. Oh, baby. All right. Amazing. It's a wall stun. Fantastic. And the flip. So there's a small mistake in that you allow him to use Ancestral in between.
Okay.
But he still dies. It's no problem. But it is important just in general against any sort of hero that has especially mobility, for example. If it's like a Zeratol, you can't leave any time in between. It's more important that you don't use Fire Stomp. If it I'd rather see you use the Shadow Charge and then overpower it on perfect timing instead of trying to get the Fire Stomp. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes.
If you're alone in this situation, like if you're just trying to go for maximum damage, that's when you do the combo that you just did. But it's purely for the sake of crowd control in a team fight that you want to make sure you're getting it perfectly.
I understand.
Cool. Really good. Your Artanis is on fire, dude. It's really good swaps. All right, so you're looking for this guy. It's not terrible. You are going to be tanking the entirety of it. So I think that if you commit to this guy might die, but so do you. I don't think there's a world where you could live. The fort's too healthy, and if you charge this guy, you're going to end up like here. And it's possible you're actually out of range. If that's the case, you're going to end up backing away anyway. Yeah, okay. That's good. It's lucky. There's one minion that could tank. Oh, well. If you were in a Nubrak, that would be fine, because you got beetles, right? And that's why a Nubrak is busted.
Okay.
All right. If they overchase again? Oh, another swap. Okay.
Oh, so close.
So this is a really nice wall for you. This is all threatening area. It doesn't matter which way he goes. So you do go for it. Really good. You have a flip, and then it's another wall stun right here. What happened there? Oh, you got penetrating round. That's unfortunate. Okay, but this is still okay. Beautiful. Really nice. I mean, there's not much else you could have done at that point, but
okay.
It was a good wall stun against the Muradin. I would have liked to see you get the second stun a little faster. I just want to show you. I'm pretty sure that you had a little bit of hesitation. Whenever you have the chance to do a double wall bang, always take it immediately. Don't wait, because it's not just you want to get your stacks, but it also just hits so hard. You don't have to worry about landing the auto attacks in between, even though you ideally want to get that off. But if there's a chance of getting interrupted in between, or if they walk away, it's just not worth taking that chance. Right here, flip. Like you use an auto attack, and then you use a W, and then you flip. So you're just... I think that there's a world where you get both flip charges in this situation before the penetrating round even goes down, if you do it immediately. Okay. And if that happens, then you don't have to use your temporal loop, and you get the kill immediately, and it's just better. And if that happens, then you can take this fort immediately as well. Nonetheless, this is fine. All right, so you head back to the bot lane, because that's where you should be living. It's fantastic. This is your home. So they do show two people here. These two can kill you eventually, and you have nothing nearby. So you only want to hold this long enough for the Dragon Knight to be captured, which should be pretty possible at this point. This is fine. You could go for a double wallbang here, get your stacks, which is really good. Yep. Flip Hanzo. Flip Hanzo. Aw. Okay. Yep. Charge again. Boom. Very nice. Very nice. A little bit of hesitation for the Hanzo, but otherwise that was really good. Really good. I just want to see if you... Did you use APOC after the first charge? Yeah. So ideally, you use APOC first. Okay. Before the first charge. Okay. Just because in this situation, you used it right afterwards. There is a world where both of these heroes can get out of it, essentially, if they're playing smart. But he hesitates and then moves this way and then that way, so he's not getting out. Actually, yeah, he almost gets out. But Hanzo, I think, could have also gotten out if he was a little faster. He still had his trait. So they messed up, so it went well. But you could have done this and prevented them from having any counterplay whatsoever. Okay. Nonetheless, really good. You get 2 more stacks on your devastating charge. Which is fantastic. You just stay in the bot lane, push this out, okay. The rest of your team is in mid. Okay, there's really not that much for you to be doing. In this situation, there's very low chance of you getting any sort of wall bang, but unless you can get a wall bang against the keep, if something steps like right here, that's like the only possibility for a kill with Diablo here. Okay. But nonetheless, the rest of your team is here, and you have 16 talent tier advantage, so I would like to see you with your team. Even if you're not getting a wallbang, you can still do a QEQ combo to keep somebody in your team for a while, which is really good with a Tychus. So you do eventually head here. Okay, so this still should be a the keep guaranteed. That's fine. I don't think you can end the game right now. Okay. Yeah, so this is exactly what I was talking about earlier, right? When you're taking the mid keep down, you're limiting the safe zone so much. Right now, you're trying to take a fight in the unsafe zone, and what that led to Tychus dying. He was the one who went in first, so he started tanking the fort shots. Can't do that. He was already kind of low. So this is exactly what I was talking about. If you had gone for the bottom fort instead, or the bottom keep, it's possible that you could have won the game just right now, because you have so much more room to go for these engages, that if you get picks right now, that's when you could end the game. All right. Tychus dies. You guys successfully disengage, even though they get the arrow. All right. You take your camp. That's free. Still, Tychus is dead, so I'd like to see you go for this bruiser and give this bottom camp.
Okay.
After you cap this. Yeah, okay. So Tychus is still dead. So if I'm them, I'm hard pressuring this camp, right? They're on the same talent tier, and Tychus is not going to be here. So this is a guaranteed 4 versus 5 if they immediately go here. As Muradin is essentially doing the same thing you were doing before in the top lane. Is he's showing vision, and he's allowing you to do something that you shouldn't be doing, but because he's making a mistake, you're not making a mistake. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so this is exactly what we're talking about, and this is fantastic for you. This is a guaranteed kill, another flip, and another stun. Boom, boom. Bye-bye. Diablo's so good as a playmaker, especially in the late game. If you can complete that quest, which you have, which is fantastic. And we have the cleanse come out. These guys are a little bit too far out. I don't like seeing them here, since after you get that kill, yeah, this is the goal. And these are not the two heroes that you want to be doing it with, because it takes too long. I think they can get out, though, with that blind.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a large slow. Okay, all right. So, yeah, so your team, you guys get off this because you see that they're in trouble.
Yeah,
APOC is a good peel here. This is a flip. It's a little bit early. It's a little early.
Okay.
You want to walk essentially up this way, because he's walking this way. So the moment that you get to the point where a flip is going to put him on this side, because when you flipped him onto this side. So you want to walk behind him almost and then flip.
Okay.
You could still charge. Yeah, there's a small window. Oh, you got stunned. Okay. So yeah, this is a situation where you should have gotten a kill, probably the Raegar. And if you had lightning breath, it would have been. Even if you don't land stuns, you just rip the lightning breath for the slows, and they can't leave. All right, so you guys are pushing with just the siege. It would be so much better if you had the bruiser with it, but
yeah.
So you have the siege camp, you have the Tychus thing. That's fine. Artanis is just too low though. It's unfortunate. So you push in the Muradin to the middle of the team. No stuns, but that's okay. He's gonna get chunked at the very least. We have minigun. Do we use it? He does use it, but it's a little bit late. It's okay. A lot of damage. Nice. Really good. Good route there. All right. You also have a catapult in this lane, so it's not. It's a pretty substantial push. Really nice. Good flip charge. Fantastic. And okay, so at the very least, he gets an ancestral, maybe even more. Okay. Good route again. Oh, Muradin. I didn't even realize how low he was. Was that a blink?
Yeah, I used my 20. Yeah.
All right, let me take a look at that. So Hellgate allows for a lot of playmaking potential, and whenever you're going for this build especially, I strongly urge people to take Hellgate. I almost never would recommend Dying Breath. A lot of people take it because, it's a free ultimate, but it's when you're dying. It's like, if you're dying, I don't know. It can be worth it, I think. If you're playing against a team that has a lot of frontline burn and kill potential, like if you're playing against a Varian or a Garrosh with a Greymane Li Ming type thing, where they're trying to pick off the frontliner, then Dying Breath could be useful, or potentially in a mosh pit situation, potentially. I don't know. But generally speaking, Hellgate is just the best here. There are some games where if you're going Lightning Breath, that Hellstorm can be really useful as a pure zoning. For example, on Volskaya or or on Infernal Shrines, this can secure an objective, basically. It can be like, if you're trying to take a fight, they have to stay inside of it if they want to try and contest the objective, which is like, it's literally like standing in fire, so not such a good thing.
No.
All right, so let's take a look and see how you use this Hellgate. Definitely want to see you using Hellgate, ideally aggressively, to combo. You basically can use it like a miniature Apocalypse for one hero. So you don't want to just use Hellgate for a blink, because it does more than that, right? It provides this stun rune and does damage, and it's very easy to combo this with your base kit. The way that you combo it is you just drop the Hellgate immediately, followed by the charge, followed by the flip, and then they should be inside of it.
Okay.
You can also do it against walls. So if somebody, for example, is, let's say, I'll start trying to point it out when I see it. Okay. So you do have a charge right here, yeah. You could. Oh, you don't. Never mind. You don't have charge. All right. So your abilities are okay. This is when you go for this play. That's fine. You don't have 20 yet. Awkward. All right, so now you have your 20. I'll just wait till you pick it. All right, so you immediately just snap it, but you don't have any abilities. So I don't like this Hellgate. There's a very low chance of it actually securing a stun, and it doesn't put you in a threatening position because your cooldowns are down. If you waited 4 seconds, then I think that you could have made a play. Yeah, there's just nothing you can do, so they just walk away. Ah, Chromie gets a pick. That's cool. Ooh, close. So with 2 people dead, you also have 1 person dead. I think it's pretty safe to just stay in this bottom lane and try and get this keep, or to go for the Dragon Knight. Those are both very viable options. You don't want to drag this game out very much longer because you have 20 talent to your advantage, so you want to end this game pretty soon. Either with the Dragon Knight or just by continuing to push, getting more picks as you go. But since you have Artanis down, I think that the safest play is to go for the Dragon Knight, and that looks like what you guys are doing. Once again, I'd love to see you be the one who's in the bottom lane just because of this shrine, and have like Tychus go to the top lane instead. Chromie probably shouldn't stay here, but he's baiting all over them. All right, so you're not showing vision though by doing this, which is okay. So for all they know, you could be bottom, so this is fine. Tychus is finally the right person who takes the Dragon Knight. Yay! And at this point of the game, I think it's pretty safe to just run at the core, but he doesn't want to run at the core until the rest of the team is relatively close, just because he's taking free damage. I think it's still fine. The keep's dead, and they still had people dead for a little while. If you're running up against like a team with heavy burn for a Dragon Knight, even walking this distance alone is really bad because the Dragon Knight could get burned for like 50%, and that could prevent you from ending. So it's important to prevent damage on the Dragon Knight if you're going for the end game here, and that is by using your team to help zone, essentially.
Okay.
Because they have to make a choice. Do I DPS the Dragon Knight or do I DPS the heroes? And in that situation, if they choose the Dragon Knight, then your team can then immediately trade into them, and they have no more abilities. They're dumping all their damage into the Dragon Knight. And if they don't dump their damage into the Dragon Knight, then the Dragon Knight's too healthy, and then it goes straight for the core, right-clicks it, and you win. That's it. And this is exactly what you want to be doing as the Dragon Knight at this point in the game, is right-clicking the core. Ideally, you want to be also stutter-stepping and walking away from the enemy team, trying to avoid as much damage on it as possible. The longer the Dragon Knight lives, the more damage it does, and the more damage it does to structures is insane. It does bonus damage to structures, increased damage by 100%. So you want to be stutter-stepping downwards while keeping on attacking, and the rest of your team wants to be zoning the enemy team from damaging the Dragon Knight or hitting the core itself. Those are the 2 options. So punting is really good against the highest damage dealer, which is correct. That was the Rainer. Fantastic. And now we're just auto-attacking the core. You're dealing with the Muradin, which is not great because Muradin doesn't do anything really in this situation. You want to be zoning the Hanzo or the Sonya. That's probably the best thing you could be doing. So yeah, so this is not perfectly executed all around, and because of that, the Dragon Knight is going to die with the core still being at 50%, maybe 45%. I still think you guys can end the game, especially now that you get this pick on the Sonya. Should be game still. But I think that there's definitely a world where the Dragon Knight doesn't die before the core dies if you play that correctly.
Okay.
And that has to do with you peeling the right targets and the Dragon Knight punting the right targets and stutter stepping to avoid damage. So this was a really, relatively clean game. You guys definitely were in the lead for the majority of it. I think that you did really well as far as landing the wall stuns and whatnot. I think you were really on top of that, which is fantastic. It's a big part of playing Diablo correctly. I think the biggest problem that I saw overall was just knowing where to be on the map at any given time.
Okay.
And so, as Diablo, I'd love to see you spend 95% of the game in the bottom lane or at the very least in this triangle. You should pretty much never go above the halfway point of this map as Diablo on this map. There's just no reason for it. Almost ever. There's obviously exceptions to the rule. But as far as the rest of your team goes, I don't know. This was a solo queue or with a group or what?
I think it was a 3-stack. I was with Malfurion and I think Tychus.
Okay.
I don't quite remember.
Okay,
and
sure.
I think we convinced the team for all 5 of us to be in team voice.
Sure, that's great. Awesome. That's always fun when that happens. You get to have more coordination. So yeah, I think that this is a 3-stack, I'd love to see more communication, especially when it comes to taking camps and when to take them.
Okay.
This game was on a macro front. It was very sloppy. I forgot to ask what rating was this at? What ranking roughly?
I'm in Plat 5.
Okay.
So I think the others. Who did I play with? Oh, one of them must have one of them was Bronze 1 when we started, and then he went to Silver 5.
Okay.
And I think Malfurion must have been Gold 3.
Okay, so probably the average MMR is going to be around gold, then I assume. All right, so that's okay. So that's to be expected to a certain degree, is like people not taking camps perfectly and whatnot. But it's really important, and if you can try and learn the correct timings of when to take a camp, even if you're not the one who's doing them, if you just ping them and try and communicate either through voice or pings or typing. Taking those camps at the right time can guarantee objectives. Guaranteeing objectives guarantees level leads grant one team fights, and that's how you carry in this game, is by making the right shot calls. That's really what carrying is all about. Mechanical skill is important, but the fact of the matter is that I see very decent mechanical play at all levels, and really where people struggle is the decision making and the macro aspects at lower levels.
Okay.
Other than that, I think that this was a pretty solid game. I already mentioned the where to be on the map.
Right.
This triangle is just, this whole section is just amazing for Diablo, as you already know. And I think you did it really well. Just 1 or 2 times where you were the one who was standing on the point instead of being the threatening position instead, but otherwise. Okay. Yeah, I think this was fantastic. I would have liked to see you prioritize the bot lane more, but that's also shot calling macro, right? If you guys went for the bottom of the map first, I think that this game ends potentially earlier when they were level 15. But
wow, okay.
Yeah, they were about to turn 16, and this was when Tychus died up here. Remember? Yeah. So if it was on the bot side instead, if you'd gotten this keep instead of this one, I think that you could have potentially ended the game with picks in that situation.
That's right.
And I think you still had a Dragon Knight at that point. That was the 3rd Dragon Knight. Yeah. So this was the 4th Dragon Knight that you ended with. So once again, you won every Dragon Knight, 4 Dragon Knights, and so you should win this game for sure. 3 kills to 16. But yeah. You have any questions?
I guess I was thinking about how trying to approach tanking with different mindsets, and sometimes it's difficult getting people to follow the call, because especially when we're I guess equal skill and they have another opinion, and I tend to it's if we're trying to talk about the strat during while the game's happening, like that to me is I'd rather not argue. I'd rather
Oh,
get something
absolutely.
done. So it's like, okay, it's just whatever.
So
We'll and then,
one thing that's really important when you're playing tank is being decisive.
mm-hmm.
Even if you're making the wrong decision, I'd rather you make that decision decisively than not be sure and do nothing, right?
Right.
So it's really important that as the tank, especially as Diablo, because Diablo, his kit is very designed around making plays. So you are the one who's making those plays. You're the one who's choosing when to make those plays. And as Diablo, it's a point and click ability, Shadow Charge, right? So you can take a fight almost anytime you want. It's just a matter of, will we win this fight if I take it? So
Okay.
you kind of have to just be the one to make that decision. Even if your team might disagree, they have to follow up on you. It's not an option, right? If they don't follow up, that's not your fault. It's not.
Okay.
They have to follow up. Even if it's not the right decision, obviously you want to try and make the right decision as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do nothing, it's the worst thing you could do. And if you the rest of your team, like as Diablo, you can't purely play reactionary because
no, you can't.
It's not his kit, right? There are some heroes where you can do that, but there's very few situations where as Diablo, you want to be very passive. There's very few of those. There are certain situations, such as if you are against a Garrosh and an auto attack team, then obviously you can't be super aggressive because if you get thrown into their team and destroyed by auto attacks, it's not so good. But yeah, so decision making, and as far as mindset goes, I mean, Diablo is really prominent in the meta, right? So he's very likely to be picked up early on in a draft or banned, and that means that you're going to definitely get games where you get kind of countered, and other games where they just forget to counter you because for whatever reason, right? So there's definitely going to be different mindsets when it comes to playing tanks that you pick early on in drafts. But I'll take this opportunity just to briefly talk about the different tanks and sort of the situations where you might want to pick different ones. So the most important tanks in the current meta, I would say, are Anub'arak, Diablo, Garrosh, and Johanna. Those are the most important because they provide the most value to pretty much any team comp. You can pick those heroes either first pick or second pick, any game, any map, and it'll still be pretty good, right? There's very few situations where that's not the case. There are certain maps, obviously, that favor certain heroes over others. Dragon Shire, for Diablo at least, Dragon Shire, as well as Infernal Shrines, as well as what else? I guess Towers of Doom, but there's another one that I'm not thinking of right now. But as far as rotation maps, Johanna's fantastic. Something like Tomb of the Spider Queen is actually phenomenal for Diablo as well. Tomb of the Spider Queen, because of the fact that Devil's Due, the level 1 talent, is just going to be giving you so much value from getting globes in 2 different lanes. It's so hard to get out traded because of that. Johanna's also just really great there as well because you have the fast wave clear, fast rotations. It's really hard to be ahead of a Diablo or a Johanna comp for that reason. The reason why Anub'arak is so prominent in the current meta and why he's currently the best tank, and I think still is even after the nerfs, is a combination of reasons. One, beetles are really fantastic. They soak shots and they allow you to make aggressive plays under towers very safely. 2, Cocoon. Cocoon is an amazing ultimate that allows you to be a shot caller. It's like a shot caller's wet dream because you can choose when to take a fight anytime you want, and it can almost always be put in your favor as if it was an outnumbered fight just with Cocoon. But you have to be very decisive, and you have to be very you have to be kind of crystal clear about what the plan is and execute it, because he's a punishing hero if you miss abilities. If you miss, he's got long cooldowns. His stuns are very long. His escape is very long cooldown. So you just have to be very decisive with Anub'arak to get value out of him. But if you can do those things, he's super powerful. And then finally, the third reason that Anub'arak is super powerful is that the spell shield on his regular shield is outrageously powerful. if you can time that with opponent abilities, if you have good game sense, if you have good awareness, and you can use that to block skill shots and whatnot, it's so hard to kill him. It's really hard to kill him because he's getting that shield plus the spell armor, and you're just negating massive amounts of damage coming into you. And yeah, that's he feels like one of the tankiest tanks in the game, even though he has one of the lowest health bars of all the tanks. So that combined with the beetles, the cocoon, and of course level 20 rewind. Rewind for a Nubrax kit is so strong because he's already got 2 stuns in his kit. So this not only gives him potentially 4 stuns, but it allows him to also have an engage plus an escape if he wants. Very similar to Muradin, but even better because of the unstoppable aspect of it. A Nubrak is worth picking on pretty much any map, any draft. I would prioritize him over Diablo in most situations, except for potentially on Dragon Shire and Tomb of the Spider Queen. Those are probably the 2 maps where I would probably consider Diablo over him.
Okay.
And Garrosh. Garrosh has a shitty matchup into specifically a Nubrak, but he's really solid into Diablo, so that's sort of the thing to keep in mind. He's not great into Johanna either, so Garrosh is very much so the counter pick to either Diablo or any of the other tanks. ETC, Arthas, Muradin, any of those other tanks, Garrosh has fine matchups into. And then Johanna is just the all-around tank. Johanna is never bad, doesn't have bad matchups, is just sort of always decent. Never insanely strong, but always decent. So sort of, and also much more map dependent, right? Sort of want to have Johanna on those maps where there's more rotations, or perhaps on Volskaya even could be quite good just for the grouping up potential. And yeah, I think that just about covers it. There's as far as the other tanks are concerned, there are definitely situations where they can come in handy, but their overall power level is definitely lower currently than the fort main tanks. Sometimes you want to have an ETC for a stage dive potentially. Moshpit is obviously still a really good ultimate that in a lot of games is going to still be the right pick, but if you need to have a global, for example, if the enemy team picks Falstad and Dahaka on a really important global map and you don't have a global and you still need to pick a tank, ETC can be the pick there. Arthas is obviously really solid as a counter pick to heavy melee. He's really great into Illidan, Greymane. He's really good against other tanks. He's actually quite good into Diablo. He has a fantastic matchup there because, as I mentioned before, Diablo really struggles into slows, and Arthas has all the slows plus roots, and he can just never get away from him, right? You can't ever leave his area unless you have a devastating charge on something else farther away. Yeah, I think that covers it. I think that's about it. Any last questions?
Probably just I would say that draft as I get higher into the leagues, I think I want to also start thinking about drafting.
Yeah.
Or just a general, or like just like a primer to like how to start thinking about it a little bit more seriously.
So I think that the tanking role in particular is one of the few roles where, at least in the current meta, it's not so much about countering in draft as much. That's one of the reasons why Arthas isn't picked that much, is just because tanks are very frequently picked up in the earlier stages of the draft. They're very, like the 4 main tanks are very well rounded. They can be played different styles and are viable on all of these maps. So drafting wise, there are obviously different matchups that are better than others, but I think the main thing you want to be focusing on, at least for right now, is which maps are best for which heroes, and if you know what tank the enemy team has, then try and go for a tank that has a good matchup into just the tank. That's really important. Otherwise, yeah, counter picks. I think that Arthas is pretty much the only real hard counter tank to most drafts that where you're looking to hard counter with a tank pick. Johanna can also be a hard counter to heavy auto attack teams. I'm not saying that you should only pick Johanna into auto attack teams, because I think that she has more value than that into pretty much any composition. But if you're going up against a team that heavily relies on those auto attacks, you can build Johanna in such a way that her blinds are just really oppressive.
Right.
And there are definitely games where Tyrael is a very nice surprise pick that he can be a very good counter pick to in certain situations. Like if they have a lot of squishy backliners that do a lot of damage or are very skill shot dependent, Tyrael is amazing because he's got a tiny hitbox. He's really fast, very mobile, can get into the backline, deal damage, and then teleport back out, especially after level 13. He's amazing with an Abathur hat. I just had a match a couple days ago with a Tyrael with an Abathur hat, and it was amazing, just fantastic. You're able to jump into the backline and chunk a squishy for 50% health and immediately teleport back out and just keep doing it over and over. I think that pretty much covers as far as counters. Really look at for the maps. A new Brack obviously is any map, anytime, first pick, second pick, grab it. Get good with a new Brack, because if you get good with a new Brack, you'll get good with pretty much every tank, because it forces you to learn good positioning. It forces you to be good with skill shots. It forces you to be better at shot calling, and he's also just really strong. So yeah.
Okay.
All right. Cool. Well, thanks for submitting this replay. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for the coaching. I appreciate all your insights.
Absolutely, my pleasure. All right. Take care.
Have a great day.
You too.